Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Nur Shazwani binti Muhammad Tarmizi, and in this video I'm going to talk about the differences and similarities between the characteristic of music in nationalism and exoticism of the 20th century. So as its core, composer of Romantic era saw music as a means of individual and emotional expression. Indeed, they considered music the art form most capable of expressing the full range of human emotion, and as a result, Romantic composer broadened the scope of emotional content. So, the differences between Frederick Chopin Piano Sonata No. 2 in B flat minor, Funeral March, which is nationalism, and Carmen Suite by Bazard, which is exoticism. Well, there are a lot of differences characteristic of music between Frederick Chopin's Piano Sonata No. 2 in B flat minor and Funeral March, and also Carmen Suite by Bazard. So the first characteristic that has a difference between these two orchestra work is performing medium. Performing medium was a chamber music ensemble, large symphony orchestra, opera companies, and piano were the predominant performing medium during this era. So, Frederick Chopin Piano Sonata No. 2 in B flat minor, Funeral March performing medium was played for a funeral procession. It is played for military funerals and executions. For example, it has been disordered for John F. Kennedy's funeral and gravesite to present the brilliance of his music while setting him to rest. Meanwhile, Carmen Suite by Bazard, it is played to produce orchestra suite from their opera. It became common practice in the 19th century composer to produce orchestra suites from their operas for a few reasons. One being that it helped with a promotion of the opera, as well as reaching out the audience who may not have money to be able to see the opera in full, because opera was a very expensive outing and it was only for the rich people who were able to afford to see the full production. Well, the other differences that can be deduced is rhythm. Rhythmic complexity and changing tempos were frequently used during the Romantic period. So, Funeral March is a musical work with a slow, stately pulse, and it is typically in a minor key and in a 4/4 time signature. Other than that, it is imitating a funeral procession, while the specific origins of the Funeral March are unknown. So, books of military music suggest the earliest funeral marches were slow, simple beats kept on a large drum, but sometimes these drums were even wrapped in black fabric to signify death and mute the sound, adding the mournful atmosphere. So, this funeral march as a musical genre was born out of the muted drums, while the somber, gloomy mood and the relentless beat characterized the music over the dotted 8-note rhythm, replaced the monotonous drum. Other notable characteristics include short phrases and slowly changing harmony. So, for the Carmen Suite by Bazard, the rhythm in his work used most in a prelude expression. The tempo of section A of the prelude was allegro giocoso, and it is very dramatic. The section B and C, it sounds slower, but in reality, it is in the same tempo, but with only less dramatic. Besides that, section D is the only part of the prelude that changes tempo. It slows down to adagio. The plucked string in the bass set up a rhythm associated with a tango, and that rhythm persists throughout every measure of the aria. the first part of each verse in the minor key, the remainder in the major key with the same tonic. So the last references that has between these two orchestra work is harmony. Although a considerable of music from this period used traditional harmonies based on major and minor scale, new and complex harmonies were introduced, and harmonic variations such as use of modulations and chromatic tones were commonplace. The first part of Funeral March movement is passionate, with the left hand laying heavy chords in a low register, evoking the sound of ringing church bell. The solemn and heroic melody played the right hand and make it sound ultimately serious and elegiac. So the second part comes with another surprising contrast. Within one bar, the movement goes from the darkest mood to the warmest and calmest lullaby with a shrinkily simple melody and harmonics. So the Carmen Suite by Bazard Harmony shows the preludes includes solely the orchestra. It begins in a major and in C major. So it is A, B, A, C, A are all in a major D. D is the only part of the prelude that change key. Major harmonies predominate in the duet between Michaela and Don Jose, giving it sweet sound. There is no harmonic tension between these two characters. When Don Jose and Michaela sing together, their vocal lines work in a perfect agreement. So the similarities between Frédéric Chopin's Piano Sonata No. 2 in B flat minor Funeral March and Carmen Suite Bazard. Texture is one of the music elements. It is describing the texture of a piece of music. For example, the texture of the music might be thick or thin, or it may have a few layers. It might be made up for a rhythm only of a melody line with chordal accompaniment, or many interweaving melodies. The texture characteristic of the two orchestra work shows the same texture. For Funeral March, it has a homophonic texture. The dynamics of this piece are soft or piano. In addition, the piece in instrumental, purely piano piece with no vocal accompaniment. And the Carmen Suite texture also was a homophonic texture, but it has a melody and also accompaniment. Well, during this period, melodies become subjective, emotional, and often were virtuose. Greater technical proficiency by performers led to an expansion in the range of the melodies. So many composers use folk songs and programmatic ideas as the basis of their melodies. So the melody of Funeral March was very deep and moving with high use of emotion and the loss of loved one. It displays this melody by moving the piece through a few movements. The first movement was soft and dreamlike. It uses dramatic switch between soft piano keys and large and loud chords. This movement displays tears and losing someone dear. The original theme is not displayed, seems joyous, and it is a moment to remember the good time and memories made by the loved one. So Carmen Suite, the deep tones came out from the cellos and basses, adds to the sheer drama of his song. The main melody stands out while the other parts from a background or harmonies are counter melodies. So in conclusion, Romantic was all about the feelings, and so was Chopin Frédéric in his Piano Sonata No. 2 in B flat minor Funeral March, and also Carmen Suite by Bazard. as the foundation of Romantic artistic idea was personal expression and rule-breaking. It is surprising that the musical style continued to evolve in significant ways, and by the late of 19th century, composers were becoming more abstract in regards to the atmosphere and sentiments they wanted to express. It is no wonder the music of the Romantic period with its expressive sense and passion of foretelling dramatic stories remains one of the most popular era of classical music. Thank you.